Hey everybody, welcome to Battleground Podcast. We are back with the second part of my conversation with Chris Cowan. Chris Cowan was in the Outlaw Platoon. He was one of my squad leaders, and now he's a police officer, and he's done all sorts of amazing things since he's been out of the military. But this is the second part of our conversation. The first part, we intended just to jump, or at least I intended to jump right into the second combat deployment to Afghanistan, but as is typically the case with Chris, he and I will talk for hours before we actually get on topic, and I guess this is how it goes when you serve in combat together. Chris, welcome back, man. Thank you for giving me more of your time, and thank you for coming back for part two of this amazing conversation. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Sean. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
It's going good.
So we left off with you lying to your first sergeant and then getting in a huge fight in Watertown and coming back from your first combat deployment from Afghanistan, having, been shot at and been blown up. And then we turn right around. I mean, I got to the unit in I think May of 2005, and we turned right around and immediately started training for the second deployment.
Yep.
And so, I remember getting to the unit and thinking, we talked a little bit about this in the first episode, just jumping right into things at the Joint Readiness Training Center and just immediately training for war. But for me, it was like a new thing, Chris. I was a brand new platoon leader. I had never been deployed before. But what was it like for you, and not just you, but also maybe your family? What was it like for you to have to turn around and go right back?
That's a good question. I guess, I pretty much knew that this was going to be my last deployment. I wasn't planning on making a career out of the Army. And I guess I was just looking at it, I think in some ways a little naively that, it was probably going to be more along the lines of how my first deployment went. Which I, couldn't have been further from the truth. It was a totally different deployment than my first deployment. You know what I mean? So yeah, as far as that goes, I had, before we deployed, a few months before I deployed, I got married. I since was divorced and, remarried, got 4 great kids, 4 great boys that I love. And, but yeah, at the time it was, my first marriage. And it was really, I just had my mom, you know what I mean? I was never close with my dad. My dad never really had anything to do with me my whole life. So, it was just one of those things, kind of just, let's get through it. Let's get home and let's go to the next chapter, So I was kind of thinking out towards what's my life going to look like in a few years from now, from that deployment, you know what I mean? And just trying to get home safe. But yeah, my thoughts were, it was going to be, yeah, we'll go over there, probably won't be too much going on the first one. But I was wrong, like I said.
Chris, talk about, if you don't mind, talk about what, your upbringing and growing up a little bit. You and I have talked about it a lot. And I don't know how much, how far in depth you want to go into any of this stuff, but, you were one hell of a non-commissioned officer, and I think you, along with all the non-commissioned officers and soldiers in our platoon, really were one of the main reasons why all of us got home, or many of us got home alive. But how do you think that your upbringing, you said your dad wasn't around a whole lot, how do you think that shaped the person that you became later? Or did it? Did you think about it at all?
It did. I think that I sometimes think, those of us who've been the most wounded in certain ways, sometimes God can use those things, the painful things that we've experienced in our lives, the traumas that we've been through and faced, obviously, growing up in a small town, with a dad who's a successful businessman, who's rich, who had nothing to do with you. I mean, that's basically the quintessential bastard child. You know what I mean? So that's basically what I came out of, So Yeah, that's tough. You know what I mean? I didn't fully realize that until I got older. I kind of just locked all that stuff away. I think it made me tough. You know what I mean? When you grow up without a dad, I think it makes you tougher in some ways, but it's also very dangerous because you obviously know statistically most kids that grow up without dads either end up, usually dead or in prison or have, there's a lot of issues obviously without having a father in your life. I think we need mothers and fathers in our children's lives, but yeah, I mean, it was just I would say it was just very, I think in my early life, I found some confidence when I was a teenager through a friend of mine. His dad was the head football coach in our town, and he was like my best friend my freshman year of high school. And I played football that year. I was 108 pounds to start my freshman year of high school. The doctor was like, I don't even if I was your father, I wouldn't let you play. And I was like, well, I don't have a dad, so just sign the thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it was football. That's tough when you're 108 pounds to play football. You know what I mean? So, but I think I was a tough kid. You know what I mean? And I liked football. But really, what I really gravitated towards was my friend's dad was like, you should really wrestle. That could be a good sport for you. And I got into wrestling in my freshman year, and it was like that was my sport. It just that sport for me gave me so much confidence going forward in my life. It was such a hugely beneficial thing for me to be a wrestler. And there's just something about it, one-on-one combat, there's this mutual respect wrestlers have for each other. It's the sport. It really is a great sport. It really is. You put yourself out there in front of everybody. And if you win, it's on you. And if you lost, it's on you,
Chris, I wrestled as well, just a few years, but I think I started wrestling in second or third grade, and now I look back at it as an adult, and I like the sport. I love it. I actually like watching it on TV, and I think that appreciation for wrestling has led me to really love Ultimate Fighting and UFC and the training that goes into that. But as a kid, it was from a pressure standpoint, man. Mm-hmm. It was almost too much for me. I don't think I could take it. And just the idea of sitting there with your little match slip, at a tournament on a bench, waiting 30, 40 minutes, in line to, for mat space to wrestle and sitting next to your opponent the whole time. That was really, really nerve wracking. And God, when I was in third grade, I can't quite remember what weight class I was in, but it got to a point where, I was a fairly competitive wrestler, but being from Western Pennsylvania, there are lots of very, very, very good wrestlers around here. And I would always stumble into this dude. His name was Mike Croyle. He went to Norwin. And we would always be in the final, and he would just always whip my ass. And so I got trapped. In this weight class, having to wrestle this dude all the time, and then make it all the way to the finals and run the gauntlet in some tournament, man, and just get my ass whipped by this kid every time. Yeah. It just got old,
Yeah, it's a tough sport, and it's there's some people that, there's guys I wrestled in high school that there's one guy in particular, I never beat him. My whole high school, I wrestled him every year. And really my junior year, I was good enough to beat him, but I wasn't in my head yet, but I did beat him my senior year to go to state. And then it was the last time we ever wrestled. It was very bittersweet. He was a really great guy. His family was awesome too, but it was just one of those things. I went, but because I beat him, he didn't go, I knocked him out with runnings for state because we were wrestling 145, which is a super competitive weight class in high school. And we had basically the way it was stacked up, we had 8 people who were deserving to go to state, and about only 4 could make it. So it was just a bloodbath. I ended up getting second and going to state, and then but it was wrestling. A lot of great lessons in wrestling. A lot of great things that I there's a guy I wrestled. I don't know if I should say his name or not. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but his name was Bill Hintz, and he was just really super good wrestler from this private Catholic school where the richer kids went and stuff, and we're the poor kids from Emmett and stuff. And I wrestled in my freshman year, and because I got called up to varsity at 119 because a kid got hurt, but I was only weighing in 115, 114. I was wrestling 112 before that. I was a little guy. And this kid's a good wrestler, a very good wrestler. He's a sophomore, one of the top wrestlers in the state. And the only thing I didn't want to do is like, don't let him pin you, because I was trying to get points for my team. So if he pins me, that's like 6 points for them in the dual match, in the dual meet. And so, basically I held on, and he had like a major decision on me. I think he won. He got like 4 points for his team, but I got through the match without him just absolutely completely crushing me, So it was like, that was like a building block. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to beat him one day. And then I didn't end up wrestling him as a sophomore, but my junior year he came around, and I wrestled him in a tournament, had him on his back. The ref called us out. I thought we were in. My coaches thought we were in because I had him stuck, but he ended up beating me that match by a couple points. And then we came back to our home match, and there was a lot of people there, a lot of people at school, teachers and stuff. And he was, I don't know, we can, I don't know if we scrub the name or something later, but he was kind of a little arrogant, kind of an arrogant kind of guy, and just a lot of people didn't like his persona. He ended up throwing me out. Like after the ref blew the whistle, he threw me like into the stands, like everybody's booing. It's like this huge, this huge fight. And towards the end of the first round, and he stepped into a head and arm. I just crushed him with it, and I put him right to his back. I don't know how I didn't pin him. I thought he was stuck, but he got out of it because we had about 5 seconds left in the round. And ended up I beat him 8-7, but it was a crazy wrestling match. But that was when I knew like I had arrived in wrestling. That's when I knew that like I had abilities, to go out there and accomplish like goals that I had set for myself. You know what I mean? So that's it. That's the confidence building that wrestling gave me. Those types of stories, and that's why I tell my kids with their sports, like you're going to have these moments where you'll look back and it's like, yep, that was a defining time. And when I played football or when I wrestled or whatever it is that you're doing, and it just works into your life. You know what I mean? Down the road, when you're in the Army, when you're doing something really difficult, if you're trying to start a business, whatever it is you're trying to do, it's like you go back to those times where you forged through and you fought through adversity, and accomplished your goal.
I mean, it's amazing, Chris, because, I'm thinking back, my experience wrestling and just like I mentioned before, the immense amount of pressure that you're under all the time. It's one-on-one. Like if you lose, it's nobody else's fault. I mean, so you're right. Yeah. There are a lot of lessons in there on accountability and ability to handle pressure and grit, determination, toughness. And I remember, my parents, my mom and my dad came to every match, and my dad was always a coach on the side of the mat coaching me and stuff. And you did all of that without having a dad around, and it just makes it even more amazing to me that you were able to do all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a sport that typically, like, I pretty much everyone I wrestled with had dads. You know what I mean? I was like the only. I don't want to say I was the only one. I'm sure there's always other kids out there, but yeah, as far as like on my team or people I'd see, typically their dads wrestled and their dads get them into wrestling, and no, that was not the case for me.
What was that like? I mean, like, did you ever think about that as a kid? Like, because you just said like, well, everybody that I wrestled with had dads. Do you ever feel left out?
I think I wasn't ready to face it then. I think I was too young. I always try to be of the mindset of being grateful. Like, well, if my dad, my mom wouldn't have gotten together that one time or whatever, I wouldn't be here. So thanks for giving me life. You know what I mean? I guess that's how I thought about it. But, obviously as the years go by and then you start having kids and then and then you start realizing like, wow, it's not right. You know what I mean? It's kind of, that's kind of how it went for me. So it took a while. It took a while for me to really drill down to it.
Well, I mean, you are one of the toughest people that I've ever met. I mean, you were scrappy as hell too. You're mentally tough. I mean, your nickname in the platoon, like we called you the Constrictor, because every time you walked by me, you put me in some headlock and try to choke me out. You're always punching people, fighting people, super aggressive. So it's not surprising to me that you found yourself, even as a gangly 100-pound kid on a wrestling mat, getting thrown into the stands in some bench clearing brawl. Like somehow Chris Cowan always finds his way right into moments like that, even as a kid. It was fun. So
it was fun.
So do you think that I mean, do you think that all of these experiences made you into a better leader, a better non-commissioned officer in the Army when you finally got there?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think, some of, the childhood traumas, things that I had to face in my life, the adversities, those things can make you stronger if you let them, you know what I mean? And, yeah, absolutely they did. And obviously a lot of things happened, and then you just kind of build on it, when you go into the, like when I went into the Army, I remember and I don't know if I said this our last part, but like our first, like when you're in infantry training in basic and you have your one station unit training and, we do the infantry portion. You got your, you do like the 12-mile foot march and your ruck and all your gear, and you do your patrol bases and you do all these missions. And it was so hard. Like, it was so difficult. I was like, this is like terrible. Like, this is so tough. And like this company commander was like, hey, this is like the easiest field problem that you guys will ever have. This is the easiest. And I'm like, no way. He was dead right. He was completely right. But you just get so tough when you just live through that stuff. And it's like, you're just wet and cold for days and a week or 2 weeks. It just builds a toughness in you. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't be broken. You know what I mean? And I think that's the type of attitude that a good infantry soldier needs to have, is that you're not going to quit ever. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a build up, from my previous wrestling and other things. But then obviously, when you go through the training, you get stronger, you get mentally tougher, physically tougher,
So let's talk about Afghanistan Part 2, your second deployment. Did the unit in the train up, because we talked a lot about train up in the first episode of your first unit. It was the same unit, but like oftentimes, you do a deployment, guys get home, they move, they transition, there's like a personnel turnover. So same unit, different people. What was there any significant train up differences that you noticed, having, comparing the two units? Like, did we do anything differently in the second train up? Was it more difficult? Talk a little bit about that before we jump into in country.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I would say, so I'm trying to remember when I went to Fort Knox, to be honest with you. I think that was before my first deployment. That was a tough train up, but I will say that just the overall train up for an extended period of time was definitely more difficult the second time around under Colonel Toner. I mean, it was just ranges all week. We were constantly just foot marching everywhere and just go, live fire exercises. We're doing we're doing a lot of mount stuff. We're doing, I think we even threw some trenches and stuff. And we were doing a lot of different stuff. You know what I mean? Just a lot of different infantry tactics. We're doing, a lot of like, God, it's been so long since I went over the battle drills, but like squad attack, platoon attack, all these, and then just working them into live fires and just, we were really going hard,
So we did, it's crazy. So we did a live fire, and just so people watching, listening, live fire is like you're out in the field, you have a mission objective, a town, a building, taking out a high value target, but you're using live rounds and you're shooting, you're moving, you're communicating together as a unit using live rounds. So, right. I mean, obviously, if you miscalculate something or somebody has an accidental discharge, somebody could get wounded or hurt. And you talk about some of the stuff we did in the train up there. And I don't think you weren't in the platoon yet at this point, but my first live fire training exercise, it was all about assaulting this town, and I had to emplace this support by fire position in a base of fire with 240 Bravo machine guns and this big line of people on this ridge line overlooking the town. And then I had to move directly east, probably a kilometer east, and move the assault element down and get them online and get them ready to attack. And then, just as I emplaced, I had to have mortars firing on the objective, and I had to turn them off the moment the support by fire opened up. It was like incredibly complicated. Right. And Chris, I got, as a young platoon leader, like I got recocked on that probably 20 times. Like the men in Outlaw Platoon wanted to murder me. I couldn't get it right. And And I remember thinking at the time, like, my God, this is ridiculous. The standard that Colonel Toner holds for me as a young leader, but also everybody else, was just, it seemed unreasonably high. And I remember, like, one time we got recocked. We had a soldier, like, on our platoon. We finally, everything goes right. Everything goes perfect. And I'm like, finally, we're done. And we get across the objective. Everybody assaults through the objective and pulls 360-degree security. And then one of the soldiers lays down literally right by Colonel Toner's ankle with a squad automatic weapon and accidentally discharges it, like, within an inch of his ankle. He has to, like, jump up over it, and we were just like, son of a bitch, had to get recocked all the way back. Had to do it all over again. But man, I think that stuff paid off. That paid off for us.
It's complicated though. Like, people don't, if people are listening, like, haven't ever done something like a live fire, it's not like going to the range where you're in a static position, nobody's moving, everybody's online. You know what I mean? No, this is, you've got people in front of you. You've got people on the side. You've got people moving different directions. You've got, like, your flanking elements, and you've got your support by fire, who's, like, actually putting rounds down range. And then you have to have them shift fire, lift fire, do all these things have to be in place. Like you said, when you got mortars coming in, like, they got to be in at the right time, and you got to shut it off at the right time as you're hitting the objective or whatever it may be. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces, and that's just a static live fire exercise. That's not combat. That's just literally just a walk through live fire exercise, just moving the pieces around the way they're supposed to move.
Imagine, so just think about it like this. Like, you have your support by fire lighting up the objective, and your assault element starts moving towards the objective to flank. If they don't hear your radio call about, hey, cease fire or shift fire, so you shift fire so you can continue to assault, they're still shooting the objective when you arrive, and people die. And so this isn't like a, conventional infantry units, because, again, you and I talked about this in the first episode about how everything nowadays is all about special forces, special operations, Navy SEALs. Like, we're not a small unit. Infantry platoons are 40-plus people, and then you have attachments with mortars and everything like that. So if you want to get a sense of, like, infantry combat, watch Saving Private Ryan, or watch Band of Brothers, because that's more what it's like. But it's unbelievably complicated. But Chris, I think it saved lives. I think it made me a much better leader in Afghanistan, especially one that, when it came time to people really trying to kill us, it allowed me to think on my feet a lot better. It allowed me to think outside the box. Like, knowing, you talked about the squad battle drills, or all those battle drills that were drilled into our heads for a year leading up to the deployment. Man, I knew those things inside and out. And not only that, I knew the troops. I knew what motivated them. I knew, like, how they thought. And when we got to Afghanistan, it just allowed me to think outside the box. And I think that training saved a lot of lives.
Well, it did. I mean, we did a lot of just training, reacting to ambushes, because you knew when we go over there, like, a lot of what's going to happen is you're going to be ambushed first is what's going to happen, like 99% of the time, right? So, it's just like, if a vehicle goes down, how are you going to get this thing hooked up and get it out of there as quick as possible when you're in the kill zone? Getting through the kill zone, how you're going to accomplish that? How are you going to, you know what I mean? So I just remember doing a lot of those drills, and those were important for over there, because that's a huge thing we faced all the time, is getting ambushed in some wadi system, you know what I mean, as we're rolling through.
So talk to me about your first firefight in the second deployment in Afghanistan. Was that with me, or was that with the command?
It was probably because I was with the commander's truck.
Was it June 10th?
What's that?
Was it June 10th?
Yeah, it was June 10th. Yeah, because I didn't have anything before that. I was, I was on the FOB most of the time, and we would come out whenever the commander came out. But yeah, it was June 10th.
So so when I say June 10th, it's just so everybody understands it. That was, like, one of our biggest firefights in that deployment. I mean, I had set in with my platoon the night before on June 9th, had 24 people on the ground, 5 gun trucks. We had what we thought was the high ground. And we just got attacked by a massive enemy force the next day. I mean, they had 200 plus people, I think, outnumbered us 10-1. Like, we got smacked. We got hit hard. Within the first minute of the engagement, every single person, all the key leaders in my platoon were wounded, including me. And, we trying to call for help, but, we weren't sure. We tried to call in for CAS, like close air support, but they were diverted down south supporting troops in contact down in Helmand province. So we had no air support for a long time. And Chris, like there was a point where I thought we were going to get overrun, and then out of nowhere, you and Captain Dye, our company commander, along with Delta Company, like a Delta platoon, show up out of nowhere to reinforce us, and then we just fought to a stalemate for forever. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, because I was a commander's gunner that day, doing my RTO duties, my commo duties / I'm the gunner when we go out. But yeah, I heard you on we heard the shots. We heard it kick up, and it was like you could tell something's going down because we were a couple of kilometers from you guys. I think about, not positive, but maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away.
Yeah, I think just north of us. But 2 or 3 kilometers in Afghanistan with all the mountains and hills, it could be a 30-minute drive,
I don't know how long it took us to get to you. I mean, obviously the second we heard you on the radio, it was just like there was like 12 guys down within like less than a minute.
What
did
I say?
Like black on ammo.
Do you even remember? I don't even. I got hurt
you just
so
said
early on. I don't even. I almost.
You just kept
remember.
saying he's down. He's like Baldwin's down. Like you just everybody was down. We got 12 casualties. We got 13. And then it was just like holy shit. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, we got to fucking go. We got to get there like now because I thought you guys were all gonna be dead. You know what I mean? I was like, we have to fucking get there. Like hurry the fuck up. You know what I mean? We got to move. And so that's what we did.
What were you doing? What were you doing there? Like, because, when you do mission briefs and convoy briefs, you get a sense of what units are around you. Obviously, you don't want to call for fire or artillery or shoot in a direction where friendlies are. But you guys were out there. I don't remember, could be totally wrong because I don't remember this, but I don't think that was supposed to be a planned mission. Why were you even there in the first place? What were you doing?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't know why we were there. I don't know if it was something because I don't think we were out there the night before. I think we went out that day, if I remember right. Like, I don't think we went out on June 9th with you guys.
No, you didn't. I mean,
you know what I mean? I think we went out.
If you weren't there doing whatever it was that you were doing, I don't think we would have made it. I think we would have been overrun.
Yeah, that would have been. I don't know how you get out of that one, dude. That was really nasty. It's just the volume of fire. Like when I got up to that ridgeline and we see everything that's going on, and it was unbelievable. You know what I mean? I mean, just like everything's getting kicked up, branches, and it's like it was coming from like every direction. So I just remember that, like it was coming from every direction. Even like down the hill, like on this. You know how you're on the ridge and it kind of went downhill. Like there's rounds coming that way too, across, down from like another position on a hill, like behind us. It was just everywhere. I mean, it was like a 360 degree attack, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it was like nothing I had ever experienced up until that point. I mean, I remember thinking when I was out there on the radio, like I was trying to take cover as best I could and coordinate a quick reaction force and call for fire. I remember I was calling for fire, danger close, immediately. And I mean, because they were just on top of us, man. And it was just, I remember thinking like, man, there's no safe place to even take cover, because a lot of the trees were just completely splintered, everybody that was on a gun was wounded. Emmerich was shot in the head. I don't know how you
didn't get hit. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
but I mean,
literally, everybody that was on the gun got shot in the head that day. Like everybody.
Yeah. I kept thinking like I'm gonna die. Like this is it. You know what I mean? Because I was just so exposed. You're in the gun like that, and I just was like, yeah.
And this was back when we had up armored trucks, and like we didn't have an armored cupola. It was just you had these like steel walls, but like they're name tape defilade, so you're exposed from here up. And you're just up on the turret. Like
you're exposed. I mean, if you're gonna get on the gun. You have to expose yourself somewhat. I mean, you're exposing your head. You know what I mean? You can stay low, but you got to be in a position where you can at least see what you're firing at. So yeah, you have to make an exposure there when you're doing that.
So how did everybody else react when I called in troops in contact? Because I'm so interested in that perspective because I wasn't there and we were just completely overwhelmed. And I think you guys got there. You had to have gotten there pretty quickly.
how we reacted is like everyone got their shit and like we went, like we were wheels up within seconds. I mean, it was like
amazing.
Guys are hanging out, smoking a cigarette. Everyone's in the trucks and we're just going, you know what I mean? It was just like that. I mean, we had to go immediately, you know, we didn't have any time to waste. Just from the sounds of it, it sounded like by the time we got there, you were already gonna be overrun. And then I heard you yell you're black on ammo before we got there. So I was like, fuck, this is fucking bad.
I mean, we were shooting our guns were, I mean, we didn't have time, you know, you have a 50 caliber on a turret, like you can't be firing those things on cyclic for an extended period of time because it'll melt the barrel and warp it and then make the weapon system inoperable. But like when you're getting overrun, you don't exactly have a lot of time. You don't have an opportunity to swap. Yeah, you can't be like switching out the barrel. And so, you know, you carry your, UBL or your universal basic load of ammunition. And man, I mean, we always brought more than we were supposed to have, but we burned through it like within the first 10 minutes. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden it's like, what the hell are we going to do? We had claymores in place around our position, like claymore mines that we were blowing to try to keep the enemy off of us. But we could see them, you know, 20 feet away at the bottom of the hill shooting at us, you know?
Yep.
Like they were that close to us. And I mean, thank God, man, for you and Captain Dye and all those people like hauling ass up there because we definitely would not have made it. I remember like when Captain Dye got up on the hill, he linked up with me in the middle of the perimeter, and I remember his face. He was just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, he handled himself like a pro, but he was just, you could tell he was like, wow, oh my God, this is crazy, you know?
Yeah, like this is really bad.
Yeah. It was nuts. And you know, as a young leader for me, it's like in the first minute, every single key leader in my platoon was wounded. Greason was wounded. Baldwin was wounded, who was a second squad leader. Now when you came into the platoon, you took Baldwin's place when he got wounded and took over his squad. But then also his team leader, Garvin, got wounded, and Emmerich got shot, and Kyle Lewis, who was out in his first patrol, he got shot and was wounded. I mean, everybody got Campbell, who was a squad leader at the time, jumped on a turret to give one of his guys a break. He got wounded. I mean, it was just Sabo was out there, a weapons squad leader, a senior squad leader was out there. He gets blown up and gets wounded, shrapnel all over his form. Everybody was hurt. Everybody was fighting wounded.
Everybody.
And I remember, so one of the things, and I'm just remembering this as we talk, as I remember your truck pulling up and Captain Dye getting out, which is what I just talked about, but you up on the turret, like shooting. I remember you up there shooting. What did you have up there, like a 240?
240, yeah.
That's crazy.
I like that gun. It's a great gun.
Why?
I just like 240s. I've always, you know what I mean? They're not that finicky, like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes like the Mark 19s can be finicky, and you know, they're just a reliable gun, and it's a really good gun to have in a fight.
Yeah, so
like
we had three what you call crew serve weapons that we would typically mount on trucks. A 50 caliber machine gun that's been in use in the Army since like World War I. Like it's a Browning, right? A Browning 50 caliber. Mark 19, which is basically an automatic 40 millimeter grenade launcher. Just hold down a butterfly trigger and it's just pumping grenades out. And then 240 Bravo, which is just a crew-served 7.62 machine gun, belt-fed, I think open bolt, right? Open bolt operating system, belt-fed machine gun.
Yeah.
And that was your choice, bolt. Huh? That was your choice.
Yeah, I like that gun. I mean, it wasn't my choice per se, but I'm glad that's what gun that I had on the commander's truck. I like the 240. It's easy to shoot. You know what I mean? It's a good gun.
So what were you thinking when you got up there? When you got up there, and you see what did it look like when you got on top of the hill? Like inside our perimeter.
Honestly, it was just chaotic. It was just like there's just so much going on. I didn't really know exactly where to focus. You know what I mean? It was just the volume of fire, and then obviously seeing like literally just how many people were attacking your position and our position. And even breaking through the line, like, you know, I'm pretty sure we were taking fire. We just couldn't tell. It was
inside the perimeter. They were inside our perimeter. Yeah, for sure.
Because I remember, like, and I don't want to remember this wrong because I don't want to do Baldwin a disservice, but like, he was shot in the ankle, and then wasn't that Marine ETT first sergeant trying to get him out of there at some point?
We were all trying to evac him. And
then didn't he get shot on the back side of that slope?
Yes. He was
shot.
I
watched that happen. I was above it, and I was like, holy shit.
We were all
where did that come from?
Yeah, so oh my God, that's so true. This was like a couple hours into the engagement. We finally get Baldwin back to our casualty collection point, which was on the back side of the hill, which we thought was shielded from the area that we were taking most of the fire from. And everybody was just in the trenches shooting. And I say in the trenches, I mean it. Like, we had dug hasty fighting positions. It was almost like we were hunkered down fighting back and fought them to a stalemate. So it gave us some breathing room to evacuate our casualties. And Baldwin, I remember, like, it was like me, Sabo, Doc Pantoja, and this is after Doc Pantoja had been shot in the face already, and then Dixon, Sergeant Dixon, who was one of the Prophet spooks that were with, or Prophet guys that would like try to help us monitor enemy communications, and maybe one other person that tried to like, I don't even remember what the hell you call it, carry him, like one arm, one leg, like to, carry him to the trucks when the Marines got there. Now, the Marines were embedded with the Afghan National Army, so the Afghan National Army actually reinforced our position a couple of hours into the engagement with Marines. And we, at that point, wanted to get our casualties into those Marine trucks so that they could ride away and evac them. And to your point, what you were saying, it's crazy that you saw this, but we were carrying Baldwin, and we took machine gun fire. It was automatic machine gun fire. We dropped Phil, and all of us hit the deck. But I remember a round going through the back of Baldwin's body armor and embedding in Sergeant Dixon's arm. Like, it just hit it. It was like it hit his arm, and he like looked up at it, and he had it wasn't arterial blood, but he was bleeding pretty heavily. Like, looking at it, almost going in. He didn't go into shock. He didn't, but he looked like he was going to go into shock, white as a ghost. And Pantoja, like, with the entire left side, or I can't remember, his entire side of his face completely wrecked. Like, puts a tourniquet on him, wraps it up, and then Dixon runs over to the other side of Baldwin and picks him up with his good arm, and we carried him the rest of the way. But how does that happen if they're not on the back side of the hill?
They were. I mean, that's the thing. They were everywhere, man. And, like, you couldn't see all their positions either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Did you feel like that?
Yes, I did.
You would take fire and you didn't know where it was, like, you don't know where it's coming from. You don't, maybe a general direction, but like, you don't know, like, where the hell are they? You know what I mean?
Chris, like, I didn't even realize that never dawned on me until this moment that fire could not have come from the east. I mean, it was way too close. It was way too accurate. And what I didn't talk about before was that even in that fire, like, we finally got Baldwin to his car. The last thing that he said to me before he was evacuated was that he was shot in the back and couldn't feel his legs. And that was the last we heard from him on the evacuation. I think I talked to him, like, because after this mission was done, like, they took me up to battalion to debrief me. Do you remember that? When we talked to the Sergeant Major and Colonel Toner, and Sergeant Major Vega was like, man, Sergeant Major Jensen, like, we had looking back, man, our unit was fucking amazing. Like, Colonel Toner, Sergeant Major Vega, Sergeant Major Jensen, and all of even the staff guys up there, like our S2, Tristan DeBoer, they were all just incredible. But we get up there, and Sergeant Major Vega was telling me, and he was actually showing me what the Predator feed looked like when we were under attack. And you could see through the infrared lenses of the Predator, he's like, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to like 200 plus people attacking us. And they estimated that we killed 200 plus people that day, the enemies, because there were just that many. And so, isn't that crazy?
I remember the J Dam in the cave too. Remember that? The cave.
Yeah. That's what kicked this all off. That's what kicked us all off. Like, the end of the day. So, like, we went back, like,
I think some of them squirted into that cave, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that's when we dropped it.
But before that, Chris, we finally got air support after being out there for hours. I think we had 3 trucks that were destroyed that had to be towed off of the objective. And I mean, so we were up there for hours trying to get them off the hill and stuff like that, while taking pot shots and stuff from the enemy. But we dropped. I mean, we ended up getting an A-10 on station, dropped a couple JDAMs, And then
we had Apaches.
We had Apaches.
Once we got the Apaches in, that's when everything really changed. That's when it was like, it was definitely over.
Do you remember? Do you remember the reaction of the soldiers on the hill, of our guys on the hill when the Apaches showed up? It was like something.
It was my reaction too.
Everyone was like, yeah. Everyone was cheering. Do you remember that?
It felt pretty damn good. Dude.
It was crazy.
See a couple of those things roll through when you need them. Yeah.
They do what's called bumping, like, because like of what happened in Black Hawk Down, where you have a helicopter that would loiter, right, and attack. When a helicopter loiters, it's very vulnerable, and you shoot a rocket propelled grenade up and take it out. But so the tactic that they use now, or the procedure that they use now, is like they bump. So what we saw, Chris, you remember, like they would fly super high up into the sky, and then like peak out, and then put their nose down and just swoop into the ground at 1,000,000 miles an hour, firing those guns the whole time. Awesome. And then the next one would replace, and they just rinse and repeat, and all throughout the objective. It was crazy. You remember us cheering up there? They were amazing.
We were all cheering at that point in time,
It's crazy. Yeah. It was crazy. And so I think after the Apaches were there was an A-10, and then we got a B-1 strategic Lancer that ended up dropping like 11 or 12 JDAMs on this ridge line that we got attacked from. Now that ridge line was right on the Pakistan border. I mean, we were right there. And the cave site that you were talking about was right on the border. I mean, like they were coming in, entering the cave on the Pakistan side, coming out on the Afghan side. But even after the engagement, do you remember, like, we went back to the base, like everyone wounded, like bandaged ourselves up real quick, and grabbed a new set of trucks and went right back out after those assholes. We didn't want to let any of them survive. We wanted to chase them.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
We went right back out because the next day was my birthday. June 11th was my birthday. Happy birthday. And so we got back, and we had and I had, he hadn't slept. I think I did like 3 or 4 sets of bench press or something. And I was just absolutely exhausted. I didn't have enough energy to even work out. And then we just got right back out, and we went right back out.
I remember getting into an argument with Captain Dye. I wanted the guys to be able to rest. But again, looking back, he was absolutely right. You got to keep the men on it. You can't let them, because something like that could make people not want to ever leave the wire again. And he was like, you got to get right back after it. And that's when we went back out. You remember we dropped all those JDAMs on the cave. And I mean, you remember the A-10 or Predator video of that? Do you remember what that looked like? How they would drop? And first of all, I remember watching this in the Tactical Operations Center. It was a woman A-10 pilot who dropped the JDAM, and I just thought, man, that, life is not without a sense of irony. That's amazing. The woman killing a bunch of Islamic terrorists was a pretty awesome thing. But I remember they dropped 4 JDAMs on that cave site and completely collapsed it in. Wasn't that nuts?
Yeah, those things are unbelievable.
Can you believe that we lived through this? How the hell did we live through this?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't have a good answer for it. I mean, just wasn't our time, I guess. You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. That was the worst firefight that I've ever been in,
Yeah.
There's nothing like that firefight, dude. That was a huge battle. I mean, that was a battle,
Yeah, so. It was. Yeah. I mean, and like, we experienced a lot of firefights over there, and it just ground us down. I mean, we were supposed to be there for a year.
Do you remember when you get ambushed by they'd have 6, 7 guys try to ambush you, and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? It's almost laughable. Fuck it, you know what I mean? I'm like yelling at my gunner, fucking shoot him. You know what I mean? Because he's running, the guy's trying to break contact. I'm like, but yeah, it was just a different, because it was so, when you've been in a firefight with over 200 people trying to kill you, when there's 5 guys taking pots,
they ambushed us all the time, all the time. And you're right. It got to a point where it was just it got to a point where we killed so many of them. We killed so many bad guys over there that they couldn't replace them fast enough. And the replacements that were coming didn't know the terrain as well as us. So we were in this unique situation where we had more combat experience on the ground in Eastern Afghanistan than many of the people that sharpened their teeth there. We killed all the
we knew our way
guys.
around. We knew our way, we were there for 16 months, and we were in the same area of operation the entire time. So there's a lot of knowledge that you learn over the course of 16 months of doing that every single day. And you always made me go on point every mission. So that was fun too.
Yeah. Point means like
you can never relax on point.
Yeah. I know that always made you mad, but your point person is like, obviously they're the ones that are exposed to the most risk because they're the ones that often get shot at first because they're in the front. But you were always the guy that was on point trying to find your way in a very difficult place where there's no roads, there's no electricity, there's no running water. Like a lot of the maps that we had were old Russian maps of the area. Like there's no, there was one paved road in Afghanistan, and it was Highway 1, but I'd never seen it. I'd never drove on it. Everything that was just a dirt road. It was just like a dirt trail.
My first deployment, I was on that road. I think they called it the Ring Road or whatever, but yeah, it was that. We weren't there our second deployment. We weren't on that road. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just off-roaded. We off-roaded everywhere we went, and literally, like we were dead reckoning everywhere we went in Afghanistan with trucks, and we also, we got extended. So, like, just to give people some perspective, we were supposed to go home after 12 months, and I think, like, where were you? Like, were you home yet, or were you in Bagram? Where were you when you found out?
Yeah, so just anybody who's read your book, Outlaw Platoon, and any of that stuff. I came over to Afghanistan when you came over. I was part of the ADVON, the advanced party that came over. So I was there like when those kids got blown up by the rockets outside the gate that day. It was like our first day there. I think it was
crazy.
It's first morning. I think we were there that night. The next day that happened, I believe. But then coming back home, I was part of the advanced group coming back. And I'm trying to think. So I was with our guy. We were with the guys. And I wasn't the advanced group. I was the regular group. You were staying back for right seat rides for the leadership portion of it. And we were in Sharona.
That was our brigade. Yeah, that was our.
And so we had signed over all the equipment. And I'm like, we're downloading the ammo. And it's like, yeah, baby. And I'm smoking cigarettes and ripping Red Bulls. Or no, probably Rip Its because the Army, they got cheap on us and they stopped giving us. Remember the Rip Its? Like we had Red Bulls for a few months, and it's like, nah.
They would ship them in a Connex, and we'd grab all of them out of there and throw them in the back of our trucks.
Always had Rip Its, and so we download all of our ammo. Everything's downloaded, and I'm like, oh my god, we're finally coming home. Here we go, and it's like 1 a.m, and like one of my soldiers like, they woke us up for something. Like, hey, you guys need to come down to like the chow hall tent or something. And
wait, what were you thinking at that exact moment? Because like. It couldn't have been anything good.
No, but I was trying to be positive because like my guys were like sorry, Cal, like we're, and I was like,
that was your first mistake.
I was like, listen. I was like, listen. Probably someone threw a fucking piece of trash somewhere, and someone's got to fucking shove their nuts in our face because you're not going to disrespect you know what I mean? So I'm just thinking it's one of these. I'm like, this is some bullshit. Don't worry. And then we get there, and the guy's like, I think you guys need to have a seat for this. I'm like, fuck, what is he going to say to us? And he was like, yeah, so we're extended 120 days until mission complete. So,
well, see
I
you
want to
later.
call your families.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah. So I was just like, oh shit. I'm I'm dead. I'm not going to make it.
Listen, it's like people need to understand this. Like when you're 12 months into a combat deployment and you are like this close to dying every day, it's like, okay, you're counting the days like you're in prison, like little tally marks on the wall. Some guys actually did that. And it's like, okay, 50 days in a wake up, 49 days in a wake up, and then like all of a sudden, like you finally make it and you've turned in your armor piercing, sappy plates, you're turning in your live ammo and you're like all excited. You're like psychologically, you're telling yourself, I made it. Yeah. I'm going to see my family again. Like,
you're switching gears. You're starting to mentally prepare yourself to come home. It's like, okay, this is over. And then that was a killer. Dude. And
the reason why is that like to survive what we went through, and I don't know if you feel this way, Chris, but I know that in order for me to lead effectively there, I had to tell myself that I was already dead. That it was just, look, I'm dead already. It's just a matter of when and how. And that was the only way I could just not be absolutely afraid every day. Because if you're afraid, you don't want to, if you're afraid of death, then you're going to hesitate in moments where people need you. And when you hesitate, other people die. So the only way that you survive something like that is just flip a switch, say, I'm dead, I'm not even coming home. So when you get extended, right, you get extended and you've already psychologically, and cautiously let your guard down, Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I got you.
You cautiously let your guard down and say, I made it.
Right.
I'm coming home. Oh my God. It's a sense of betrayal. And look, like looking back on it now, it's like, hey, that shit happens sometimes, but if that's how it felt in the moment, like, oh my God, like we're not going to make it. We're not going to survive, because being extended for 120 days, we got extended in like February. So that meant that you had to go through another spring offensive. Mm-hmm. The first spring offensive, we barely survived in the first place. And then all the barracks lawyers came out, and of which there were many. I was also one, I have to admit at sometimes, where people focused on the part of the order that said until mission complete. And people were like, oh my God, like it says 120 days, but we're going to be here for another year. Do you remember that?
Oh God. No, honestly, I don't think I could let myself go there. I had to hope and pray it was 120 days. I didn't have enough energy to try to think about a year. You know what I mean? I was like, when we, we're in Sharona or whatever, and we immediately got to load all of our ammo back up.
Yeah.
That sucks, dude. It's like, oh, cool. I just did all this shit, but here we go again. You know what I mean? So, and come back to the fob, and you were waiting when we got back, like we land, like you come out to the airfield, you know what I mean? And I remember when I got off the bird, I was like, our supplements, you got the supplements? He was like, I already ordered them. I was like, okay. Thank God.
You know why? You know why I did that? Like, so Chris, you and I worked out all the time. We were like always on we always went to DPS Nutrition and ordered like these 10-pound bags of optimum whey protein. And then we were doing like the no explode thing too, which like now I look back on it, I'm like, how bad was that for us? Like probably
I took
bad.
No explode for like 8 years, dude. I was addicted to it. I had to that stuff is so hard to get off of. Like it's so bad.
But so like I knew, like as a leader, I knew the guys were going to come back absolutely smoked and mentally exhausted and not want to leave. And so you have to my thought was you have to look for creative ways to try to make things just a little bit better and show guys that that they're sucking and show them that like you're sucking too. So that was the whole point behind that, just didn't want you to, and I knew that the moment you walked your ass off that bird, you'd be like, we don't even have any goddamn supplements to work out. And I knew that was gonna be the first thing out of your mouth. So I wanted to make sure I got.
Yeah. Cause we didn't have much. I mean, everything was, I think the way it was like, oh, we're kind of Z'ing this out. You know what I mean? We're good to go. We're heading home. I didn't, I had just enough protein powder, whatever it was. And it's like, no.
So do you remember when the 82nd guys, like who they, so by the way, like that was horrible. Like when you do the right seat rides means like, new unit comes in and key leaders, and I was one of the key leaders, stay back behind to train them, go on patrol, show them key areas, introduce them to key leaders. I remember thinking I was never more scared in my entire life than in those last 2 weeks, because like if I was going to get shot or killed, like, hey, I'm dying around you guys, fine. I honestly, that's how crazy combat is. That's how you think through this stuff.
True,
hey, look, if I die, at least I'm with the people that I love. And I don't know any of these dudes. Yeah, I don't know any of these dudes. And oh, by the way, they're totally green. They don't know anything. Like these guys are like bringing, and look, they just don't know what they don't know. Like when you first get in country, like this isn't a knock on anybody, any unit, anything like that. Like you're new. It just takes time.
Right. You're new to the area, the AO,
yes,
what's going on the ground.
And so I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die with a bunch of people who don't give a shit about me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get extended, and then all you guys come back, and then the 82nd guys, and again, this isn't a knock on the 82nd. I've got lots of great friends that came from the 82nd Airborne, but they were like...
We got to talk about what I did. Remember that?
Did you almost got in a fight or something? Is that what happened?
Don't you remember when Rally came out and he was like, Sergeant Cowan, like, some guy's like in my room and he won't leave.
I do remember this, yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what did you just say? And I was like...
I do remember this. So they destroyed, so they were in our rooms, right? Because they had taken over everything. Yeah. They took over our rooms and stuff when we were staying in tents and stuff, getting ready to leave. And then, but when they left, because they got assigned to a different area, when we came back, we were taking over our area. And all this happened, by the way, because of the Iraq surge. Like, you remember, like, the Iraq surge happened, and like all available troops in the army went to Iraq and supported that, and then we were just like totally left. That was what happened, literally, totally left in Afghanistan to fend for ourselves. I mean, isn't that crazy? But I mean, talk about piss poor planning. Like, Jesus, like you're a general, like Secretary of Defense, Commander of the Joint Chiefs, like. Maybe plan a little bit better.
Yeah, no shit, huh?
You know, I mean, like, what the hell are you getting? Why are you making so much money?
I agree.
You know, and then these guys destroyed the barracks. Remember, they knocked down the plywood walls, they vandalized stuff, and then you guys had to go back into the barracks when they were completely destroyed. Like, why? Why do that?
I don't know. But I do know this is when Rally came to me saying that, I was pissed. I was hot.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I think I was right next to you when you were like,
no.
You were like, what?
You yelled at me. You were like, Sergeant Cowan. And I'm like, nope, I got this. And like, you followed me because you knew it was like,
wait, what did I say? Slow down. What happened? Because I remember
you were like, Sergeant Cowan, wait. And I was like, nope, I got this. This is NCO business. And like, you're like, okay. And so I go to this guy's room.
You could just see, like, by the way, Rowley, I love that kid. But you just see, he knew that the moment that he came to you, that was the reaction that he was going to get. In the you just see this little smirk on his face, and you storming down to the barracks, and I'm like, son of a bitch, this is going to get bad.
This guy's in there, and they were supposed to be out. They were supposed to be moving out. And I was like, what part of, like, this is his room, don't you fucking understand? And the guy's like, well, they told us. I'm like, get your shit and get the fuck out now. And I just started grabbing his shit and throwing it into the hallway. And like, that's how we handled it. You know what I mean? I mean, it may be kind of mean, but like, we'd been there a year and just got our asses kicked. You know, and we're not letting that happen to like one of our guys that needs to get back in his freaking room. You know what I mean? So so I lost a little bit, but you know.
Well, look, it's the little things that men cling to in combat. And I say men because at the time there were no women in the infantry, okay?
Yep.
But and that's how we spoke, right? When I say, like, because there would be like these idiots on social media when I'm like, oh, my men were amazing. How dare you say men? Or I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like, because it was all guys.
It's all guys. Yeah. And that's what you said. Like, men, this is what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
But like, you cling to those little things in combat when life and death is on the line. And the only thing you think about after a year and a half of absolute hell is, am I going to live or die today? Like, you kind of want to be in your own safe space, not to use that cliche term now, but you kind of want to have your own bed, your own space that was yours for a year. You know, you don't want to have to sleep. If you're going out on combat patrols, you don't have to sleep in some damn cot in a tent with no cover, you know? So to your point, like,
do you remember my room? Do you remember my room?
Yes, I remember your room. Oh, yes, your room was like walking into a goddamn monastery. Like, everybody had these posters and like made their rooms like super personal. You go into Sabaki's room, he had this big poker table and NCO's in there. Yeah. You walk into your room, it was like you were living, you know, at some like plateau just south of Everest or something by yourself with like lukewarm water bottles everywhere. And I walk in one day and you're just watching some Duran Duran video, Hungry Like the Wolf, or Mother.
Oh, really?
No, it was Mother by
Mother.
yourself.
Yeah.
And this dude's just dancing around without a shirt on. I'm like,
it's a good song.
Who lives like this?
It's a good song.
Who lives like this?
I remember reading a ton of books over there.
We did read a ton of books. And by the way, you along with all the other NCOs in the platoon, talked a lot of shit on me for reading Harry Potter, one of the best stories ever written. And then all of a sudden, you guys started reading it, and the big question in the platoon was whether or not Snape was a good guy or bad guy. You liked,
I remember that.
You liked the books. I was right.
I read all of them. Yeah. So
Exactly.
The 7th one came out after we got back, but I read the first 6 over there. Yeah.
We had
Good
many
books.
a conversation on outposts and observation posts in Eastern Afghanistan, in-depth conversations about Harry Potter.
Yes, we did.
The philosophical underpinnings of Harry Potter.
It's in our platoon video.
Yeah.
It's in the platoon video. We didn't know they were recording us. Remember, I think it was probably like it must have been Rally or something. I don't know who was recording us. But
I remember.
yeah.
So okay,
they got Snape did pretty good, Dumbledore, like whatever.
I really wish Dumbledore was my teacher. Yeah, me too.
I wanted to be there. It's such a magical world. You know what I mean?
You wanted to be at Hogwarts?
Yeah. It was cool.
I mean, who doesn't want to be at Hogwarts?
Let's just
be honest with each other. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the deal that that place we called it OP Bait out by Marga?
Oh yeah. Speaking of Marga, we got to talk about that. We built the first combat outpost in Afghanistan, like the first legitimate what they call cops. And yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Like we got tasked after we got extended to build this outpost up at Marga, and Marga was north of our base, about 45 minutes, by far one of the most dangerous places in all of Afghanistan. And they put us in, from a tactical standpoint, one of the worst spots ever. And they tasked these combat engineers to come out and build the base. And of course, we get tasked with going up and securing them. Right. And they start lining up these HESCOs, which are these HESCOs are basically they're huge,
really big
sandbags. Yeah, huge. And they're filling them up with these front end loaders and stuff like that. And those are the walls, and they stack them too high. And I remember we're up there with a couple of gun trucks and a skeleton crew securing these people, wondering why we're in the worst tactical location ever, especially when there's a massive hill we could have put the base on, right there. Yeah. And no, we're in the low ground, where 2 Wadi systems can basically walk right up on the base without being seen. And so the engineers get there, and the base gets hit by a suicide bomber. And I remember Wright from 2nd Platoon, that guy's a freaking hero with Lieutenant Carnegie up there. Those guys, they were just fucking pros, man.
Yeah, dude.
You got hit with that suicide.
You got hit, man.
You got hit with those suicide bombers. And we relieved them in place. And then the engineers left in the middle of the night and didn't even bother to finish the base. It was just too dangerous. I'm like, dangerous? We're the ones up here with our asses out, left flapping in the wind, and the engineers just left because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And by the way, no one ever got in trouble for that. What happened with those guys?
That's insane.
Can you imagine? Know. They just abandoned their post and left us there. They left us there with half-filled HESCO barriers. The base wasn't even done. We had no gates. It was a piece of cloth as thick as this T-shirt. There was nothing filling.
It was so bad.
I could throw a rock and it could go through that.
We didn't have towers.
Nothing.
You know what I mean? We didn't have anything. We just drove the trucks up onto a ramp, and you're just up on this wall. It's not even that high up. It's a pretty scalable wall. And that's our little compound that we were in. And obviously there's high ground all around you. There's the village in front of you. Lottie systems, 1,000 ways to get, to, it was just a bad spot, 100%.
Yeah. And you know what happens that night? Do you know what happened that night when we're up there securing a half-filled HESCO base? At 3:00 in the morning, I'm sitting there, monitoring the radio, we're at 30% security, guys are sleeping, we had just been extended, everyone hates their life, is convinced they're gonna die, and it's freezing cold because it's in February, January, we're all freezing our asses off. And by the way, there's one little pot-bellied stove, and it's in a tent, and it's everyone's freezing, and everyone's just miserable. And I get this call on the battalion radio, on the battalion TACSAT, the tactical satellite radio, and I'm thinking son of a bitch, why is the S2 calling me in my truck? That just doesn't happen, because typically you're hearing from your company commander.
No,
and he's
common.
he's Blackhawk 3-6, there are approximately 250 men moving to attack your position as we speak. Probably 50 men from the north, 50 men from the northwest, and another 200 moving in from Pakistan. And they put them on the FBCB2, like this little television set that you have in your trucks to like see. And I just like remember thinking like, after I got that call, all I said was like, okay, Roger. Like, that's it. And then I looked at the other radio that I had to tell all of you guys. And I tried to wrap my head. I remember walking over to, like, Greason, and I told, like, because I didn't have the heart to, like, get on the radio and tell, like, what we had, like, 20 guys on the ground. Like, 20.
Yeah,
like,
we had nobody.
Nobody. Yeah. And I go over to Greason, and I said, so did you hear that on the tax set? And he's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, so... What do we do? Like, how do we tell the guys? And I remember he brought all the squad leaders in, and we told you, like, in person and not over the radio.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you reacted?
I don't remember what I said, to be honest with you.
You were just like, son of a bitch! Like, this is bullshit. When is this ever gonna stop? Like, you know, like, and I think I don't remember. I think Sabo was there too, and Sabo was like, you know, Sabo is being Sabo, just mad and like, God damn it. Like, everyone's so mad. Everyone's so mad. But honestly, like more than that, like I was absolutely petrified because there was no way we were going to win the fight. There was no way. We didn't have enough ammo. We had no cover and concealment. We had a village that was like Afghanistan friendly, which meant not really friendly to us at all. High ground that was unoccupied, didn't have the manpower to occupy the high ground, didn't have the manpower to secure the two wadi systems that led right up to the base. We were screwed. We were dead to rights right there. Yep. And then Colonel Toner came through in the clutch. And by the way,
well, the air was black.
Yeah, like there was no air because so that's another point. Like, when you do combat patrols in Afghanistan, it's not like in Iraq where there's a developed country and there are evac routes for birds to fly, or at worst case scenario, you can throw a guy in a truck and drive on a paved road. No, like we were on an outlying forward operating base a couple kilometers from the Pakistan border. The only way that you could get people out who had been shot or wounded, the only way is with a helicopter. And that's only if the air was like green. In other words, like the ceiling was high enough that birds could fly. We were out there. It was black. No medevac birds were coming for us that day. And so we knew that if we got shot, we were dying out there. Literally, like what, a couple days. Was this before or after we got this was after we got extended, right?
This was after we got extended. Yeah, because that's when didn't that thing kind of come up after we got extended? Like that's kind of we started working on that.
This happened before. This happened before.
It did happen before. You're right. It did.
Just a couple days.
In December or January, right?
Yeah, this was in late January. This happened just before we got extended. Okay. But either way, we were miserable. We were thinking like, okay, we're going to be going home in a couple of days, you know? And no one wants
we thought we were almost home.
No one wants to get whacked on the last 2 days in country. And so like, even though the air was black, like Colonel Toner and the battalion staff, and by the way, the S2, Tristan DeBoard, somehow had some sort of shadow drone in the area because he was getting like the bigger picture of all this, and I ended up finding this out later. He was monitoring a lot of the communications in that area, knew that an attack was coming, but didn't know when. And because of that, because of the comms box that he had around our base in Marga and Burmel, he was able to have a shadow drone in that reconnaissance drone in that area that just caught them. Like that just happened to be in the area at the right time.
We would have been
dead to rights. Yeah,
if we didn't have that drone out.
Now, like. Done. Like, just think about people that are listening or watching this. Like, that is what right looks like from the top at a battalion to staff all the way down to ground level troops. Like, the staff in a battalion commander Colonel Toner always used to say the staff exists solely to support the people on the ground. And everybody on that staff that was in a key leadership position in our unit was completely and wholly dedicated to that. Like, why was Tristan DeBoard... He was up. I mean, he caught them at 2-3 in the morning. He was there. Somebody saw them, and they were able to pass that intel down to us and monitor them as they moved and I know this because I've seen the drone footage after the fact. It's crazy. You can go 1, 2, 3, like 200 people all, like walking in a tactical column all the way back to Pakistan that they were monitoring. I mean, they did what's called, they stacked air. I mean, they had a Predator drone on station, and then they knew that they were going to attack with Apaches, and then they were going to pull off Apaches and then bring in an A-10. And then after that, they were going to bring in a strategic Lancer. But they had but not before we fired 150 105 rounds on target. Like, it was nuts. And they brought in this unbelievable level of fire, the likes of which that I'd never seen. And we went from thinking okay, we're dead, there's no way we're going to make it, to thinking holy cow, we just won an unbelievably decisive victory. Crazy.
Yeah, and we didn't have to do anything. We were just sitting back listening to the fireworks the whole night. Insane. Which was cool.
Yeah.
It was such a crazy turn because I was literally saying goodbye to each other. I remember me and Jeff love you, man. This is probably it, you know what I mean? Because we didn't know what was going to happen, so we're kind of preparing ourselves. This is, no one's getting taken alive. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's right. I didn't think
we're not doing that because we
made sure we all had 9 mils in our trucks and stuff. Yeah.
You remember the intel about, wasn't that one of the major things they wanted to do was to
capture us and cut our heads off?
Capture a platoon, U.S. infantry platoon or whatever, and then obviously then they can do whatever they want with it if they're going to do videos of us while they cut our heads off or whatever.
Well, do you remember we knew that because when we trained the border police down in Gamal, or very, very early on in the deployment, we trained this group of border patrolmen down in Gamal district is what they call the Bandar checkpoint in Gamal.
Yeah, that's where they all took dumps outside everywhere, remember?
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Remember you were joking around need a little more fecal matter over here.
It was just everywhere.
Human shit everywhere.
They couldn't even figure out that they all needed to go to the bathroom in the same area. But but either way, there was a video of them that got overrun, and the video of them by the same people that wanted to take us out, cutting those policemen's heads off. I watched it in the talk. It was one of the most horrific things that I've ever seen. And that's what they wanted
really
to do
nasty.
to us. Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And that's why, you're right, man. I forgot about that. We're just all saying our goodbyes to each other, thinking that was going to be it, to go into utter jubilation that we were just wiping those guys out,
Well, yeah, because we didn't know. Then they were able to get air on station because we weren't thinking we were going to get air support, Because they ended up getting Apaches eventually too, because the Apaches cleaned up a lot of what I know they dropped JDAMs. I mean, you remember they dropped. I mean, I remember when we did the battle damage assessment, I would see a hat 100 feet in the air in a tree. It was just holy shit.
I mean, there'd be
that's power.
People's legs and appendages hanging in the
body
trees,
parts.
all over the place. When we got to the objective the next day to do the sensitive site, the SSE, the sensitive site exploitation or something like that. I call all these acronyms, hard to remember some of them now. But yeah, we did
a tree fall on my head.
After all that you've been through, a tree falls on your head and almost kills you. Because every tree was so brittle, we had bombed the shit out of the area. And I remember out of the corner of my eye, this tree falling down, just hitting you right on the top of the head, and it looked like a hammer to a nail, drove you. Thank God, there was a wadi system beneath you, because you fell right in this little trench.
I slid down into it.
And I remember pulling you out, and you just had sap and needles all stuck to your face. You're like, "Where am I?" You forgot your name for a second. You had this grass stain on your helmet, and I'm
I did.
It's so. It's of all the ways to die in combat,
how did Chris die? A tree fell on his head when he,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, man, it was nuts.
How crazy was it rolling up on that?
I slipped down into that.
I know.
What's that?
But how crazy was it rolling up on that objective and seeing the trees the way that they were, and all of the dead bodies, just pieces of people everywhere, everywhere.
Well, once I finally got us there, because remember I went in that body system. We were just
Chris, I'm that morning, I'm all right, God, all right, man, let's load up. We got to get there. Go, 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 go. Real moving with a sense of urgency. We got to get there quick and the reason for that is that you know,
Yeah,
you want to get there. You don't want,
yeah,
you want to catch people. And so like the sun crests over the hills and we're like, go, 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 go. And Chris is on point again. He's like taking us in this wadi system that's just like, we're going like a half a mile an hour, like going slow over them, like on the horn with him saying, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you got to pick up the pace. Get us to a road. I don't care what you have to. He's like, it's hard to do. Like, I can't. This is the best road. And I'm like, look out your right window. Like, there were jingle trucks, these massive trucks just like 100 yards from us that stack wood a mile high on the back. And they're like, passing by us at 100 miles an hour. I'm like, get on that road and get us there. And we finally get there. Yeah, we finally get there. And it ended up being a moot point anyway, because like all those 200 plus dudes were just completely. I think there was one survivor when we got there. And
no, there was bodies. There was. Remember the first? I came upon the first body right in the wadi system, and his head was split.
He was dead.
And yeah, he was dead. Oh yeah, there's no survivors. But
there was one survivor.
His head.
Yeah, his head was just like.
Oh yeah,
his head was just like.
Oh my god, this looks fake. It looks like fake, dude. You know, it's crazy. I'm like looking at his brain. You know,
and you're looking at their eyes too, and like you see how their eyes are completely clouded. You know, like
yeah, dude, like, it's just weird.
It is weird, and like, do you remember? You remember like when we pushed back there, and there's one guy that ended up survived, but the ANA had him, and they were just like butt stroking him, and like, I'm like, all right, let's stop this. Like, this is the only survivor here, and we ended up like, and again, like you'd think that this would have been all over the news, but like we ended up finding these like pack mill ID cards. Like they weren't regular Pakistani military. They were like the Frontier Corps, like their militia. And these guys had body armor. They had helmets. They had Merrill combat boots that were nicer than ours. They had Iranian serial numbers on their crew serve weapons. Do you remember the PKMs that they had?
Yep.
Like they were nicer than our 240 Bravos with like the packing grease still on them, you know?
Yeah. Yes, I remember that.
What the hell?
It's crazy.
So clearly they had gotten their weapons and their equipment from Iran, funded by Iran, with pack mill ID cards coming to attack and overrun an American platoon. And
crazy.
Never made the light of day.
Nope.
No one ever talked about it.
Nobody knows about that stuff.
Nobody knows about
that. No. We give them money every year.
Yeah.
Pakistan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and
I'm not here to talk about the politics, but you know, obviously there's something going on. There's something going wrong when you have that happening, you know. Like
I think basically
that was crazy.
I think basically the reason why we give Pakistan as much money as we do is so that they can secure the nuclear weapons that they have there to prevent a nuclear weapon from falling into the wrong hands. I really think that's why.
Scary. That's scary. People should be terrified. They know how there's not like the order in some of these countries like there is in America. People have no idea what it's like. It's like the wild, wild west.
It is.
Like Afghanistan. I mean, it's like most of the people in Afghanistan they're all tribal. They don't buy into a country model. Like you know what I mean? It's all, they have their own factions and, you know, it's a whole different world.
Yeah. Like you go back to a time where Jesus Christ walked the earth and had the AK-47, the pickup truck and the ICOM radio. And that's it. That's Afghanistan. Yeah. Actually, Rome was more advanced than all of Afghanistan is today. Like in the areas that we were, you know, seriously, ancient Rome was more advanced than them. Yep. And I mean, like, remember that scene from Indiana Jones? You ever see Indiana Jones where like he's got the guy with the sword flipping around and he like shoots him, but it's like in that bazaar. That's like Afghanistan. Like that's like monkeys. Like remember like these like monkeys on little like twine leashes running around. It's like insane. It's insane.
My first deployment, a monkey attacked me. A monkey came at me. Like,
what?
This guy had it on a leash. Yeah, and I was like leaning up against these like bricks and stuff, and the monkey was over here, like kind of. And it just like lunged at me, like almost swiped me in the face, man. Like one of these little monkeys. I was like, "What the hell, dude?" Like I didn't do anything to that monkey. It was just like, I've never liked monkeys since then. So
wait, how do we?
I don't trust them. I don't trust monkeys.
You're like justify like still trying to wrap your mind around like I didn't do anything to that monkey. Like what did I do? What did I do?
Therapy.
What did I do to provoke that monkey? Yeah, so we do the sensitive site exploitation or the SSE, and find out it's pack mill. Their weapons are incredible. What the hell? Like, what next? We end up finally making it home, and what, man? Like, everyone goes their separate ways. Had lots of people like really struggle. Everyone struggled. I struggled. I think I don't speak for you, but you struggled a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
And now, all these years later, it feels like more guys have died at home than died in multiple combat deployments.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at our deployment, we lost Cole, but everybody else lived. I mean, now but since we've been back, we've had two of our own that were in our platoon kill themselves, take their lives.
Might have even been more than that, right? Like.
We had Ayers just for our deployment. We had Ayers and we had Stalter, who unfortunately took their lives, and then we've got another situation where Keelan's in that situation where he's facing all these charges for suicide by cop.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's a good guy, man. I just think he was in a crisis. You know what I mean? I don't want to comment on what the police. I just feel like. I think if Keelan wanted to shoot somebody, he could have shot somebody. I know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think he was a desperation. He needed help. I hope it works out for him. I hope he finds
look, you're a police officer now. But you see a lot of these cops. I don't know, man. It just feels like, and I understand, like these district attorneys that are they're filing these charges should try to understand what a guy like Keeneland has been through before leveling all these crazy charges. I mean, but on the other hand, I like if you're a strict DA, you're like, hey, look, there's no excuse for what he did. Like, he could have killed a cop. Like, I don't know where you come down on all that stuff, but it seems like I just wish Keeneland could get a fairer shake here,
Me too. Me too.
Guy's amazing. He's high functioning. He's super smart. Like,
yes,
he's educated. Like, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of these DAs, like, I don't know the DA that's pressing charges against Keeneland, but like, they don't know what it's like going to war and coming back and going through what we've been through. Like, it's not that can ever be an excuse, but it's a reason, and it should be taken into consideration.
Something. It should be something. It should be taken. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, man. It's just it's been a tough road, I think, for all of us in our own ways. You know what I mean? Just for me, like leaving the Army, and I go right in. I'm not even out of the Army. I'm already in a police academy, putting myself through. You know what I mean? And then I got hired by my agency I work at. I work in a metropolitan, medium-sized police department. Got hired by them, go right into there. So I did a year of academy. You know what I mean? And then right into it. I never had any time to like download anything that happened in Afghanistan. It was just go to the next thing. And that's. Looking back, it's like it's a tough career to choose, especially after doing what we did in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? And then obviously I've had several challenges since then, but
Chris, hang on a second. How do you go? Tell me the mindset that you're in. You go from 2 combat deployments, difficult combat deployments to Afghanistan, and you transition right to continue to serve the country. You're a soldier, you're carrying a sword, you're on the tip of the spear, and then now you're the shield. You're a police officer in a tough town. It's not easy. I mean, being a cop is not easy in general, but oh my God, like being a city cop in some of these cities is really tough, really, really tough.
Yeah.
And tell me what it takes to process, continue to serve,
Well, I think for me, a lot of it was just, that's my identity. I wanted to serve, I had that part of me that just always wants to be the one that's going to stand in the gap in a way, I guess you could say. But
feel
like
the same way. I do.
But I think part of it is like, it's almost like, maybe it wasn't the best idea for me to do that. You know what I mean? Looking back, because of the toll it cost, it was a very big toll that it cost me. You know what I mean? I just look back and, my PTSD got so bad, a couple years ago that it manifested in swallowing issues. I thought I had something wrong with my swallowing. I was like choking on food, and I couldn't drink coffee or water sometimes. Everything just like in my throat would like shut down. And we went for like almost a year going to specialists and trying to figure out what was wrong. We finally figured out like it's not my throat. It's like my PTSD. You know what I mean? And so I had to throttle back, the SWAT stuff. I was an explosive breacher. We're doing 50 call outs a year on the SWAT team, and I'm in the drug unit and doing all these other things. And I just had to throttle it back and get my life together, because I wasn't going to make it if I kept going down that road. I think my body, like sometimes like Colonel Hackworth had a saying, like everybody's got a bottle, you know what I mean? And some bottles are bigger than other bottles, but when you fill it up, when it's full, it's full. And it's like, kind of like, I think for me, like my bottle filled up, and I had to change the way I was living. I had to change like my identity in some ways and say that I'm not the door kicker anymore. I'm not you know what I mean? I have to do this for myself, for my kids, for my wife, for my family. I've got to get help. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where it went for me, but it was just years and years and years of not dealing with it. And my body finally was like, you know what? We're going to deal with it, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? And so your body has a way of just saying like, you're going to listen now. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's not like, so when I came back, I mean, obviously you don't go through what we went through and not have post-traumatic stress, some post-traumatic stress. It's just, you just don't.
Right.
And by the way, that's completely normal. You go through something traumatic, whether it's a horrible car accident, God forbid, like a sexual assault or combat trauma, it changes you. It's a normal human reaction to very terrible things. So let's just get that out of the way right off the bat. But, for me, like I came back and, I am wired, you and I are very similar, Chris. Like I like to think that I'm the guy, I'm the protector. I want to be the one that stands in the gap. I want to be the one that volunteers, and being a leader is something that was always important to me. And talking about post-traumatic stress and being an advocate for it and making sure that guys that have it get help, like it's always been a major part of my platform. But even doing that, Chris, like all of that stuff was weaponized against me later in the family court. You're broken. Like you're too mentally unstable to be a dad. And it's like, so even if you do the right thing and you come home after serving your country and volunteering to serve, and you do the right thing, you're open about it, you talk about it, you encourage others to get help, it still can be weaponized against you.
You can get labeled for sure. Yeah.
And it's just wrong. It's wrong, man. And like, because I remember thinking when I was going through all that, thinking like, Jesus, like, whatever, I can handle this. I'll get through this. But how many people are watching this trial now that maybe a veteran that think like, well, geez, man, like I'm not talking about my experience anymore. Cause look what happened to him,
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, man, it's not cool. It's not
right. It's not right. And like, and here you are, like you had a little bit of an opposite problem, Chris, because you were just like, go, 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 go. And you're like locking that pain away. And you're right. Like when you do that, like your body sends you signals like, hey man, like got to deal with this stuff. And in your case, the physical manifestation of that was like swallowing issues, right?
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
It is crazy, but what I'm saying is
it's taken me years. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there was a good path, one really good, solid set path for people that are struggling after a war,
No, it's tough, man. I mean, for like when I got out, it was nobody. I mean, you just get out and like, good luck. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing, Yeah. I took like a 10 question, like, do you have, nightmares or whatever,
Have you ever killed anybody? No, Have you ever seen a dead body? You remember those checklists? It's like, how many dead bodies? like
exactly. Like at one time or yeah, man, it was crazy, but so what I do now is like, I do like wellness, peer support type stuff, and that's kind of how I've changed my roles. You know what I mean? I think it's very important, but it's a different mission than what I've spent most, 5.5 years as a, combat infantryman. And then, 15 years as a police officer. I've been, I've done everything on this job. I've done, I did patrol for 8 years. I was a criminal investigations division detective for 2.5 years. Was a drug detective for almost 4 years. So we're working like federal wires, state wire cases, your own cases. I worked in our tech ops portion of our drug unit, which is like our higher tech stuff, like covert cameras and things like that. And, obviously SWAT team for 6 years, breacher, explosive breacher. I mean, I just lived the life. I never really, some guys will do 4 or 5 years, they'll get promoted to sergeant and they'll become a lieutenant. They'll kind of take on an admin role. I've always been more of like the kind of just getting my hands dirty kind of guy. But that also, because of that, you can never shut it off. You know what I mean? At some point, you've got to get away from it. I think you got to find somewhere else to put your energies and your passions into. Because I think for a guy like me, it's like I wasn't going to last forever. I think some guys can. I think some guys can maybe do it. I just couldn't. I got to a breaking point where I just couldn't. I wasn't going to be functioning right anymore, I
mean, Chris, you never had a break. Like, just hearing everything that you just did, and then in addition to 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan, you never once came up for air. You were just running nonstop.
Yeah, and it got me. So, yeah, you have to. You got to take care of yourself.
Do you think that experience, sure, of as tough as it was for you, do you think it's made it better at the job you're doing now? You talk about wellness, like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's made me, because I've gone through some pain here, you know what I mean? Like I've been, I did a year of EMDR, like 51 or 2 sessions of EMDR, week in, week out, grinding.
Tell us what's EMDR?
I think it stands for like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So, it's a technique they use where basically when you have PTSD, like all those memories, bad memories, right? Negative connotations. And so you try to take those negative memories about it and try to turn it into something more positive, reprocess it to something that's more positive. Like, hey, it really sucked. I almost got my ass shot off all the time in Afghanistan, but I lived, you know what I mean? I'm kind of joking around here, but you know what I mean? Like I made it through. It made me stronger. It made me the person I am. You know what I mean? It's kind of cognitively thinking about it differently, you know what I mean? And so I do think it's helped me for sure. There's so many different therapies out there right now. You got these, special ops guys doing like this low dose ketamine stuff. You got all kinds of stuff people are doing. And I've heard good things about some of them. I don't know much about a lot of them, but there's some interesting things out there as far as when it comes to treatment of PTSD. I used to think that PTSD was like curable, like, oh, you can cure it. I don't think you can cure PTSD, to be honest with you, at least not yet. But I do think you can manage it. You know what I mean? I think it's something you can manage and live with, but you just got to realize you're never going to be the same person you were before you went over to that battlefield. You know what I mean? Like, so it just changes you. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much what I would say about that. Yeah.
So how are things going for you now? Like, how's the family? Is retirement on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I less than 2 years. I'm hoping to retire because I could buy back my military time, and I did buy that back. So yeah, I can retire, and I'm just looking at options of where I want to go. As far as I'm thinking along the lines of possibly ministry related things, chaplaincy. Maybe something even entrepreneurial within that. We'll see. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple different things. I don't have to make a ton of money when I retire. I'll have my retirement. My wife makes good money, so I think we'll be good to go. We're just doing everything everyone else is trying to do with their kids. I'm trying to get my kids through college, and we're trying to pay off the house and save for retirement. Because when I retire from the job, I'm just retiring from the police. I'm obviously going to continue to work. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm looking at a few things right now. So
well, anytime you want to come back and talk about stuff, man, you're always welcome. And I mean, dude, we had almost a 3-hour conversation. This is by far the longest podcast that I've done with anybody, and first 2-part podcast that I've done. But this country is very, very, very lucky to have people like you in it, Chris. I mean, there are a lot of people that volunteer to serve their country, but there aren't a lot of people that have been through what you've been through, both in Afghanistan and then for 15 years as a police officer in some of the toughest assignments domestically that you can possibly imagine. I mean, you've been put through the ringer on behalf of a grateful nation with service, always putting other people first, driving you 100% of the time. So, we wish you the best, man. I love you.
Thanks.
You're like I said, probably one of my best friends.
You're my brother, man. I love you too. And yeah, absolutely.
Anytime that you need anything, you come back, we talk on this podcast. And like I said,
absolutely.
For people who are watching or listening, as this podcast continues to grow, I want to continue to give platforms to guys like Chris to tell their story so that America understands what men like Chris go through. And so, Chris, on behalf of all of us here and my whole team and everybody that watches, man, God bless you.
Thanks, Sean.
And thanks for everything, brother.
God bless, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining. I'll talk to you later, bro.
Yep. Later.
All right, everybody. And that is a wrap with Chris Cowan, my squad leader from the Outlaw Platoon, 2 deployments to Afghanistan, then a police officer in a real tough city, done every tough job known to man. Yeah, I think we're going to do more of these. We've been at war for 20 years, have very, very little to show for it except for an entire generation of American warriors with amazing stories, and we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that we tell you those stories. So thank you for tuning in to the Battleground Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave reviews, share screenshots of you listening on social media. I'll share them to my Instagram. And oh, by the way, since we started this podcast, my Instagram profile has grown from 38,000 people to almost 70,000 people. So thank you for tuning in. Go to the website, officialseanparnell.com. We are just starting to roll out Battleground apparel. It's going to be awesome. And as always, thank you for listening. Never quit, never surrender. God bless you all, and God bless this amazing country that we live in. Take care.